If you've ever felt guilty for needing rest, this message is for you. Not guilty because you stopped working, not guilty because you quit, but guilty simply because you felt tired. Because the fire you once had feels quieter now. Because the urgency that used to wake you up every morning doesn't arrive on command anymore. Because moving fast suddenly feels heavy.
We live in a culture that treats energy like a moral obligation. If you are constantly producing, you are respected. If you are always busy, you are admired. If you are visible, loud, and active, people assume you are winning.
But the moment you slow down, the moment you pause, the moment you step back to catch your breath, something changes. People start questioning your discipline. They start assuming you've lost motivation. And eventually, if you listen long enough, you start questioning yourself. You tell yourself you're falling behind, that you're wasting time, that others are moving forward while you're stuck in place. This is the cultural lie. The lie that progress must always look aggressive. The lie that growth must always be visible. The lie that slowing down means slipping backward. But the truth is far more complex and far more uncomfortable. Low energy is not always weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom. Sometimes it is the body and the mind forcing a pause before something breaks. Sometimes it is the nervous system saying, this pace is no longer sustainable. Sometimes it is the quiet signal that the version of you that got here cannot take you where you're going next. Most people never learn this distinction because we are trained to override signals instead of listening to them. We drink more caffeine, we push harder, we drown exhaustion in productivity quotes, we confuse discipline with self-betrayal. And for a while, it works, until it doesn't. Many high performers, people who eventually reach levels most never touch, experience seasons of mental fog before major breakthroughs, periods where motivation drops, where clarity fades, where effort suddenly costs more than it used to. Not because they are failing, but because they are evolving. Growth is not a straight line upward. It moves in cycles. Expansion, then contraction. Output, then integration. Intensity, then recovery. But society only celebrates one side of that equation. We applaud the grind. We praise the hustle. We romanticize exhaustion. No one teaches you how to recognize the season where rest is required, not optional. So when it arrives, you fight it. You label it laziness. But laziness and depletion are not the same thing. Laziness avoids effort because it fears discomfort. Depletion pauses effort because the system is overdrawn. Laziness resists responsibility. Depletion has already carried too much responsibility for too long. One is avoidance. The other is exhaustion with a message. And when you mislabel depletion as laziness, you do something dangerous. You push through when you should be listening. Burnout is not a lack of character. It is not a lack of discipline. It is a signal, a warning light, a message saying the way you have been operating no longer matches what you are becoming. Ignore that message long enough, and the cost increases. Your focus fractures. Your emotional regulation weakens. Your creativity dries up. Your patience shortens. And yet, because nothing looks wrong on the outside, you keep pretending. You keep performing. You keep showing up. You keep telling yourself this is just a phase you need to power through. But here is the uncomfortable truth most people never want to hear. Peak intensity is not meant to be permanent. Nothing in nature operates at full output year-round. Trees do not bear fruit every season. Muscles do not grow during exertion. They grow during recovery.
Even the brain strengthens not during stress, but during rest. And yet we demand something from ourselves that no system in nature could survive.
We expect ourselves to be relentless. Life does not work that way. There are seasons to plant, seasons to grow, seasons to harvest, and seasons where nothing visible happens at all. Those quiet seasons are not empty. They are preparatory. They are the periods where internal recalibration takes place, where old motivations stop working, where outdated goals lose their pull, where the identity that once drove you begins to dissolve. This is why low-energy seasons feel confusing. You are not just tired, you are between versions of yourself. The old fuel no longer burns. The new fuel hasn't arrived yet. And instead of understanding this transition, most people panic. They rush to fill the silence. They chase motivation instead of listening for direction. They force action when clarity hasn't returned. But the people who eventually become unstoppable do something different. They stop fighting the season. They observe it. They ask better questions. What is this phase trying to teach me? What no longer fits? What needs to change before I move forward again? Burnout, when understood correctly, is not the enemy. It is feedback. It tells you where you've been overextending, where you've been operating on borrowed energy, where you've been living off willpower instead of alignment. The danger is not slowing down. The danger is believing that slowing down means you are losing. Because sometimes slowing down is the only way to preserve what matters. Sometimes the pause is not punishment, it is preparation. And if you can reframe this season, if you can stop seeing low energy as failure, if you can stop attaching shame to rest, you begin to unlock something powerful. Patience without anxiety, reflection without guilt, rest without self-judgment. You realize you are not behind, you are repositioning. You are not weak, you are recalibrating. And this season, quiet, uncomfortable, misunderstood, may be the very thing that prevents you from breaking and prepares you for the next level you are not yet ready to sustain. Low energy is not the enemy.
Powerful people do not always push forward. Sometimes they step back. And to the outside world, that step back looks like retreat, like hesitation, like loss of ambition. But in reality, it is strategy. Strategic withdrawal is not quitting. It is choosing not to waste energy on battles, noise, and expectations that no longer serve your direction. Giving up comes from fear. Strategic withdrawal comes from clarity. There are moments when the smartest move is to reduce exposure to opinions, to pressure, to constant availability. Not because you are weak, but because you are protecting something fragile and valuable. Your focus, your vision, your next version. When you step away from noise, clarity sharpens. You begin to hear your own thoughts again. You stop reacting and start observing. You notice patterns you missed while you were constantly in motion. Many of the most powerful comebacks in history are preceded by disappearance, quiet seasons where nothing is posted, explained, or defended. No announcements, no apologies, just silence and work happening where no one is watching.
And here is where most people make a critical mistake. They feel the need to explain. They announce their pause, justify their rest, seek permission to slow down. They try to make others understand a season that can only be experienced, not explained. But not everyone understands growth cycles. Some people only respect you when you are visible. Some only value you when you are producing something they can see. Explaining yourself to those people drains energy you cannot afford to lose. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is containment. It keeps your vision from being diluted, your confidence from being questioned, your rebuilding process from being rushed. Nature understands this instinctively. Winter does not explain itself. Seeds do not announce their growth. Roots form underground, unseen, uncelebrated. And yet, without that invisible phase, nothing strong ever rises. Stepping back is not the end of momentum. It is how momentum is preserved.